time I met him. He told me, but I still needed the, Zoom ID and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Was
So we'll proceed with the prayers. Then by the time others will join, then we will. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-manobhishtam Thapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunatha Sadhuvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Dev Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavita Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatari Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Dharita Shri Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Gopesha Gopika Tantarala Tantana Saptakanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Pancha Kalpataru Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Mukam Karoti Vacharam Tamam Bandhayate Girim Yatripatam Vande Shri Guru Devi Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Hare Krishna, I'm very happy to be with
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, just 1 second. I will do a small introduction to all the assembled devotees.
I believe we have been there together.
And no, actually, you have to welcome you for the program. Hare Krishna, welcome all devotees for our Saturday Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we have His Grace Revatipati Prabhu with us today after a small gap. Prabhuji was actually is a very busy person. Still, he has accepted our invitation and joined with us for today's class. So I think there is no need of any introduction about Prabhuji. He is very familiar with all of our devotees. So we will directly welcome Prabhuji by chanting 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra all together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Revatipati Prabhu, you can take over now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
So, today we'll be discussing on Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, 58th chapter. Krishna marrying the 5 princesses. And as Sri Chaitanya told me, we will read the summary and then we'll discuss a few important lessons from that. Those of you who can possibly, have the necessary bandwidth to switch on our videos, you can, because here only I am seeing myself. if it is possible, then your bandwidth allows. Otherwise, no problem. So I will share the screen, right, just to open that section. Then we will read the summary.
Prabhuji, sound is little breaking. I mean, it's
Oh,
not
really? Okay, I will.
I don't know, ask Manivarsha Prabhuji how it is my problem or I don't know.
No, we
I
can-
feel
it's clear, Roji. We can able to hear.
okay. Hare Krishna.
So, 10th canto, 58th chapter entitled as Krishna marries 5 princesses. And here is the summary. Just projecting it. Can one devotee read it? After that, we will discuss the more details. Krishna, you can tell somebody to read it.
Anuthangamal Prabhu, you can read.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. This chapter describes how Lord Krishna married 5 brides, beginning with Kalindi and went to Indraprastha to visit the Pandavas. After the Pandavas had completed their incognito exile, Lord Krishna went with Satyaki and other Yadus to see them in Indraprastha. The Pandavas greeted the Lord and embraced him in great ecstasy. Their new bride, Draupadi, shyly approached Krishna and bowed down to him. Then the Pandavas properly worshipped and welcomed Satyaki and the Lord's other companions, offering them fitting places. Lord Krishna paid a visit to Queen Kunti, and after he had offered her his respects, they inquired from each other about their family members. As Kunti Devi recalled the various miseries Duryodhana had inflicted upon her and her sons, that he was their only protector. You are the well-wisher of the entire universe. Even though you are free from all delusion of mind and conscious that within the heart of those who meditate on you constantly, and from within their heart you destroy all their miseries. Then Yudhishthira told Krishna, only because we executed many pious acts are we able to see your lotus feet, which even great yogis find it impossible to attain. Honored by King Yudhishthira, Sri Krishna happily remained as a guest in Indraprastha for several months. One day, Krishna and Arjuna went hunting in the forest. While bathing in the Yamuna river, they saw a charming young maiden. On Krishna's request, Arjuna went up to the girl and asked who she was. The beautiful maiden replied, I am Kalandi, the daughter of the sun god. Hoping to attain Lord Vishnu as my husband, I have been performing severe austerities. I will accept no one else as my husband, and until he marries me, I will remain in the Yamuna living in a house my father built for me here. After Arjuna reported all this to Krishna, the omniscient Lord took Kalindi onto his chariot, and then the three of them returned to Yudhishthira's residence. Later, the Pandavas requested Krishna to build them a city, and he did so by having Vishwakarma, the architect of the demigods, construct one that was extremely attractive. The Lord satisfied his beloved devotees by remaining with them there for some time. Then, to please Agni, the fire god, Krishna arranged to offer him the Kandava forest. The Lord asked Arjuna to burn down the forest and accompanied him as his charioteer. Agni was so satisfied with the offering that he presented Arjuna with the Gandiva bow, a team of horses, a chariot, 2 inexhaustible quivers, and armor. While the Kandava forest burned, Arjuna saved a demon named Maya from the blaze. Maya Danava reciprocated by building Arjuna a splendid palace. In this building, Duryodhana would later get a good drenching after mistaking the surface of a pond for a solid floor, thus embarrassing himself. Next, Lord Krishna took permission from Arjuna and his other relatives and went back to Dwaraka with his entourage. There he married Kalindi. Sometime later, he went to Avantipura, where in the presence of many kings, he abducted the king of Avanti's sister, Mitravinda, who was very much attracted to him. In the kingdom of Ayodhya lived a devout king named Nagnajit. he had an extraordinarily beautiful marriageable daughter named Satya or Nagnajiti. The girl's relatives had laid down the stipulation that any man who could subdue a certain group of 7 ferocious bulls would win her hand. When Krishna heard about this princess, he went to Ayodhya with a large contingent of soldiers. King Nagnajit greeted him hospitably and joyfully worshipped him with various offerings. When Satya saw Krishna, she immediately desired him as her husband, and King Nagnajit, understanding his daughter's intention, informed Lord Krishna of his own wish that the Lord and his daughter be married. The king affectionately told the Lord, "You alone would be a suitable husband for my daughter, and if you subdue the 7 bulls, you may certainly marry her." Lord Krishna then manifested himself in 7 separate forms and subdued the 7 bulls. King Nagnajit duly presented his daughter to the Lord, together with a dowry of abundant gifts, and the Lord took Satya onto his chariot for the journey back to Dwaraka. Just then, the rival kings who had been defeated by the bulls tried to attack Lord Krishna, but Arjuna easily beat them back, and Krishna proceeded with Nagnajiti to Dwaraka. Subsequently, Sri Krishna married Lakshmana, the royal daughter of the king of Madra, after abducting her from her Swayamvara ceremony, and he also married Bhadra, a princess of the Kaikeya kingdom. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anutam Gopal Prabhu. Your reading was so smooth and sweet, I thought. That's the best part of the classic.
Thank you.
We can just discuss some, some sharing from different views. But anyway, the service is just discussed a little bit more. Very interesting chapter, talking about Krishna and marriage with the 5 princesses. Krishna, as he tells in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, that my appearance and my activities are both divine. And anybody who understands them in truth, then the result is that Tektva Deham Punarjanma Neti. After giving up this body, he does not take another body. That is the power of understanding Krishna's activities. So when an ordinary person does ordinary activities, it is considered ordinary, because ordinary person, ordinary activity. And when an extraordinary person does extraordinary activities, that is also considered ordinary, because that is what is expected of extraordinary person, extraordinary activity. Right? Like, if a middle class person rides in a Maruti or a Honda, ordinary. If a very rich business class person rides in a Mercedes or Audi car, ordinary, because extraordinary person, extraordinary way. But if an extraordinary person does ordinary things, ordinary looking things, then it becomes the talk of the town, because it is done by an extraordinary person. So similarly, marriage, in Indian culture and system, marriage is always something exciting. But when Krishna gets married, and every marriage is like, worth reading, meditating, contemplating. And the more we read about Krishna's marriage, the more we become detached from our marriages. That is the power of hearing and reading about Krishna's marriage. This is the benediction given in Chaitanya Bhagavat, where there is a very elaborate description of Lord Gauranga's marriage, second marriage, especially Vishnumati Vishnupriya Devi. And our Vrindavan Thakur gives that benediction. Anybody who reads this elaborate description of the marriage of Lord Gauranga will not remain attached to the general worldly marriages. So similarly, Krishna marrying 5 princesses, very extraordinary chapter. And of course, these princesses themselves will talk about these marriages later to Draupadi in the later chapter, and then they will give more details. But in this particular chapter, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is speaking in great joy and excitement. He is just describing how Krishna got married to the 5 princesses. So the chapter begins by, the Pandavas coming back to Hastinapur. So we know that, Duryodhana and Kauravas, they being envious of Pandavas, they tried to harm them in many ways, and finally they made a palace made up of black So lac is a very inflammable substance, and a little bit of fire can just burn out the whole thing. It's very inflammable. So they told the Pandavas and Kunti to go and live there. There was a place called Varnavrata. So they went and lived there, and then somehow Vidura helped them, and they made a tunnel. And on the day the house was set on fire, they had already escaped. And the workers who were there, they were also 5 in number. So they got burned in that fire, and then people thought that Pandavas have been burned to ashes. So there was a lot of lamentation. Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, they are the real well-wisher Pandavas. They were mourning, and Vidura was aware that Pandavas had not dead. Krishna Balaram, they were living in Dwarka, they were also aware that Pandavas are still living, but just following the general custom. They also came to Hastinapur and met the people. In Indian culture, it's so just a part of it that people come when something, both ways they come. When something very good happens, like a child is born, marriage is there, then also people come to share that. And when something sad happens, somebody passes away, some demise is there, then also people come to share the grief. So Indian society, the family is very, extended family. The family members, the relatives, the neighbors, the village people, the colleagues, they are all included in the family. So it's quite a, we can say, very intricate social structure. That has been the beauty of India, and that is why people feel very satisfied because there are so many multiple level of relationships. So they came and they also, felt sorry for that, although they knew the Pandavas are still living. So like that, then Pandavas were in exile kind of situation. They were not being recognized. And in that period, Bhima killed the demon called Bakasur. He got married to a lady called Hidimba. And then finally, they heard about the Swayamvar of Draupadi in Drupad days. And then they came there. And although they were still in the form of Brahmanas, indicate Brahmanas, but then Arjuna went to the ceremony and people could recognize that is Arjuna. And then he, pierced the eye of that toy fish by seeing in the oil, by seeing the reflection. And then he won the hand of Draupadi and he brought back Draupadi. And then the, people surrounded them because fighting in marriages was not very unusual. So then the Pandavas actually fought with all the warriors and everyone could understand these are Pandavas. This can't be Brahmanas. Brahmanas can't fight. Brahmanas can't tolerate, they can tolerate insult, but they can't tolerate, physical pain. Brahmanas don't have that physical stamina to bear pain. Kshatriyas can't insult, they can't take on insulting word, but they can, the injury make them more excited to fight. So then they understood these are Pandavas. And then we know how Pandavas brought Draupadi and told Mother Kunti that we have brought arms. Mother Kunti, without saying, said, also all 5 of you divided equally amongst yourself. And it was a shock because the arms are not like some kind of floor or some kind of eatable or something. This is a lady who got married to Arjuna. So then there was a big conference and Vedvyasi was called. Mother Kunti was there. Yudhishthira Maharaj himself is the son of Dharmaraj. And everyone then decided that Draupadi should get married to all the 5 partners. So after this happened, then they came back. And when they came back, then this is the incident which happened that Krishna comes to Hastinapur to meet them. So when Krishna reached Hastinapur, the Pandavas, they received him as if life has come to them. That means without Krishna, they just felt dead. They did not feel any life. There was no excitement in life. They were just doing their routine. Krishna came, they felt as if life has come in the body. Just like unconscious person, when he becomes conscious, then he starts activity. Similarly, they felt exactly like that is what their feeling for Krishna. And they were so overwhelmed with joy. Krishna embraced everyone. And Prabhupada writes that just by the touch of the Supreme Lord, all their sinful reactions were lasted far away. As such, Pandavas have no sinful reaction at any point of time. Srila Prabhupada writes in a letter that Pandavas are eternal associates of Krishna in the material world. So it's interesting. Pandavas eternally participate in Krishna Leela within the material life. Because Krishna goes from one universe to another universe to another universe, constantly performing pastimes. So similarly, the Pandavas always with Krishna in the different material universes. So Pandavas are eternal associates. There's no karma backlog for them, but just as an indication is given that just how purifying the darshan and the touch of the Supreme Lord is. So when we are touching the deities, we should know that we are touching the Supreme Lord. To the degree we are in that consciousness, then actually the touch will make us free from all kinds of simple tendencies. That's the power of the touch, the degree form. So they met and Krishna followed all the etiquette, Krishna touched the feet of Yudhishthira and Bhima, although the Supreme Lord, but he's doing his human-like activity. And then he embraced Arjuna and Nakul and Sahadev, they touched his feet. And then he got seated. And Pandavas not only received Krishna, but because Krishna has come with a lot of, army and many other people, especially mentioned is Satyaki or Yuyudhana. So Satyaki, the dear friend of Krishna, is the commander-in-chief of Krishna's armies. So Pandavas also received him well. It's interesting and it's very important to note that along with the main person, it's equally important to receive well the other attendants, whether he's a spiritual master or some great personality. That's very, very important. Because they don't see how they are treated, they see how their associates are treated. That's like Krishna does not only see how we treat him, he also sees how we treat his devotee. And that is why, Vaishnava Aparad is considered more serious than Bhagavatham. Haristhane Aparad Tare Harinam. If somebody offends the Lord, like serving the deity, they will offend him. Tare Harinam, then that can be, absolved by chanting the holy name. But Tomasthane Aparad, my dear spiritual master or great Vaishnava, Tomasthane Aparad Nahi Paritra. If somebody offends a devotee, then even Krishna does not forgive him. The classical example is Ambarish Maharaj and Revatipati. Krishna told, Lord Narayan told Ambarish Maharaj, that I live in the heart of my devotees. Sadhuna Mridayam Mahyam. And he says that, I am trapped in the heart of my devotee, I have no freedom. Nahi Swatantra Ive Dvaja. I am not independent and owned by one Brahmana. My devotees control me by their affection. So, just like Krishna sees not only how we treat him, but he also sees how we treat his devotees. And that is why there are injunctions that if one is worshipping the deity and some great personality comes and there's no one to greet him, then one should actually take a halt in the deity worship and go and receive the devotee and make him comfortable and then again come back and continue the deity worship. This is an injunction given by the Lord himself. So same way, Krishna was very happy when Satyaki was treated very well. Similarly, we should be careful to take care of great devotees and also their associates when a spiritual master or devotees come. We'll see in the example of Sripad Ramanujacharya once he went to a place and he sent a messenger where one of his very wealthy disciples was staying. And then the disciple was so excited the Guru Maharaj is coming. He started making arrangement and everything was setting up. And then, the devotees who brought the message, they went back and Ramanujacharya asked them, so how was his response? Guru Maharaj was so excited, he's making all big arrangements. And Ramanujacharya asked them, how did he receive you? Well, he was in such excitement that you were coming that he just forgot that we even exist. So Ramanujacharya said, we will not go to his house. We'll go to another disciple's house. So this is the nature. That when you want to please the spiritual master, the part, the Bible says the very significant part, the important part, the unavoidable part is to be concerned about the devotees, about the God brothers, God sisters, and all of the devotees around us. It's just inevitable. And no matter how much we say I want to please my spiritual master, but unless we please our God brothers and God sisters, that pleasure of a spiritual master is a very theoretical idea. We have not yet understood it well. So Pandavas received Krishna and Satyaki and everyone else very well. And then Draupadi comes. Draupadi is just like first time meeting Krishna in one sense. But Draupadi is so devoted to Krishna that one of her name is Krishna. Krishna. That's why when chanting we say Hare Krishna, then it may refer to Draupadi also. It's Hare Krishna. Just one single. Now when we say we make it Dirgha, we make it longer than it refer to Draupadi, but Krishna Bhavagrahi Janardana, that is our hope. We know that we are calling Krishna not Draupadi. So we accept. And Arjuna is also called Krishna because of his being dear friend. So such is the name. And Draupadi came, offered her obeisances. And then Krishna went to meet Mother Kunti, because she is his Bua. Bua means, I don't know the language what you call, but father's sister. And Kunti is a very special personality in the entire Bhagavatam. There is no comparison to any other lady like Kunti Ma. because she has been a relative to Krishna, and she knows that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and she has seen Krishna in Vrindavan Leela. Apart from Rohini, Kunti is the only second personality who saw Krishna's childhood Leela to some degree. Damodar Leela she saw. And she was there in Vrindavan for a few months. Then she came. She witnessed Krishna's childhood pastime. She knows Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And yet, she has to go through innumerable challenges. But the you know, the attitude with which she faced the challenges, that is so glorious and so much worthy of meditating upon. She is the success potency of the Lord. Somebody asked, what was the success? You know, what is the success of a lady? To have a good family, to have a good father and a good husband and good children, good grandchildren. And what was Kunti's success? Her father Ugrasen was made captive by Kamsa. His brother Vasudev was imprisoned. Vasudev was imprisoned by Kamsa. His brother's sons were killed by Kamsa. His own husband, her own husband, Pandu Maharaj, he died at a very young age, and she could not have children from him. She had children from the demigods. And then the children, they were always being troubled by the Kauravas. And then, the first child, Karna, and her, other children, they became sworn enemies. Karna was on the Duryodhana side. So that was the pain. Finally, Karna was killed. That was another pain for her to see the son dying. And when everything ended, then Draupadi's 5 sons were killed. They were grandchildren to Kunti. We hear about Draupadi losing 5 sons, but you understand that Kunti's pain of losing 5 grandchildren was more than Draupadi's pain of losing her son. And then last, great grandson, Parikshit is there in the womb of Uttara, and then at that time again Ashwatthama shoots a Brahmastra, and Krishna has to go inside and protect. So basically, it was a life of such hardship, such trouble. Anyone, whom Kunti depended upon, could have depended upon any male member. They were all the time in great difficulty. And still, she's the success potential of the Lord. What is the success? Success is that she could always maintain the right attitude in all situations. She never blamed Krishna. She never demanded Krishna. She knew that Krishna is God. It was not that she was not aware. You can see her prayers are so clear that she knows that Namaste Purusham Tvadyam. You are the Adi Purusha, you are beyond Prakriti. The prayer which you recite, Namo Pankaj Malini, Namo Pankaj Navaya, that prayer, and then, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Nanda Rupa. She knows it. She knows Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and is dealing with her as if he's just her, nephew. And still, she's not blaming Krishna, she's not demanding Krishna, but she is, fully grateful to Krishna. And she expresses a gratitude, and she says that, my dear Lord, we have gone through so many calamities, but it is only by your mercy that we have been protected. And that is your nature, to protect your devotees. Although we are not of any kind of devotees, but still somehow by your glance you are protecting us. All these miseries which we have gone through. And your protection is our only hope. So Maharani Kunti expresses gratitude, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj, he meets, and he says, Krishna, we are not like yogis. We are not doing any kind of yoga sadhana. We are not like jnanis, reading so much books about it, meditating, arguing and all. We are simple householders. We are materialistic householders. We are kings and all, and we are caught up into all this administration and everything. We hardly remember you, and still you are so merciful that you are not appearing in the heart of the yogis, meditating on you, but you are coming and staying with us in our house. Yudhishthira Maharaj realized the position of Krishna and was so grateful. And Krishna, on his request, Krishna stayed for 4 months of Chaturmas was there. So while Krishna was there, because after Pandavas had come back, the Duryodhana and party, they did not give them the half share from the kingdom. They gave them Khando Prastha, which was a rocky area. Nothing was there. So they told you take that, the barren land. So then, with the help of Krishna, they constructed that palace there, palace of Indraprastha. Krishna also burned with Arjuna the Khandava forest and offered to Agni. Agni became very pleased, and he gave the chariot and the horses and the poor and the ready of God to Arjuna. So all these incidences happened in that time when Krishna is there with the Pandavas in Hastinapur, and Indraprastha was made there. And this was the seed of further the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because it was in this palace made by Mayadana, who was protected by Arjuna, that he made a system that where you feel there is water, there is land. Some kind of marble or some kind of thing, he put that You go there and you feel there's water. So Duryodhana, when he came, he pulled out his dhoti up. He thought there's water, he has to pass through water. And it was land. So it was like funny. And where he thought it's solid land, it looked like marble, there was a pond. And he fell into that. And Draupadi laughed at him. And that laughter became the cause of great anger and envy in the heart of Duryodhana, and later led to insulting Draupadi and all those dice game and everything else. So there's a seed of the further Mahabharata over here in this chapter. So while Arjuna and Krishna, one of the days they went for forest for hunting. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, he has to practice. Otherwise without practice you cannot fight the war. So he was practicing and killing different kind of animals, some for sacrifice, where they will get a new body, and some for protecting the sages, because just like there is some kind of population check, some kind of understanding of maintaining the population of different orders in the Vedic system. Similarly, the king was responsible for maintaining proper population of different animals, even in the forest. That was the responsibility. That the wild element should not increase out of proportion, otherwise, things will get affected. So while they went and they hunted, then Arjuna felt thirsty, so they came near the river Yamuna, and they drank water, they refreshed themselves, and there, they saw a very young lady roaming around at the bank of that river. So Krishna sent Arjuna to go and find out what does she want. And Arjuna went there and inquired, who are you? What are you doing here? Looks like you're a young lady looking for a husband. So, please reveal about yourself. And then that young lady said that I am Kalindi. I am the daughter of sun god. She is the presiding deity for the river Yamuna. And I am determined to get only the Supreme Lord as my husband. I don't want to marry anyone else. So this has been the determination of many great personalities. We find time and again many things like that. We find a similar incident in the case of Revatipati. She also performed tapasya to get Lord Ram as her husband. And in the days of Ravana and those days of Lord Ram's past time. And here we find Kalindi having the same determination. And in Madurai, near Madurai, we find that Andal, when Andal was born, she had the same determination to marry only Lord. And she went to meet Ranganath and she disappeared in the deity of Lord Ranganath. And, Mirabai also in the recent times, she accepted Krishna only as a husband. So, accepting Krishna as husband is the natural position of the living entity. The husband means Bharta, one who provides and one who protects. So, Krishna is the only maintainer, Krishna is the only protector. That is the symbol of Saranagati. Goptratve Varnam Tatha Rakshit Yatiti Vishwaso. Have the faith that Krishna is the only protector and Krishna is the only maintainer. So, in that sense, Krishna is the only husband. Nobody else is the husband. The husband is also Prakriti, wife is also Prakriti in one sense. For a sake of convention, one may have male body, female body, but soul by nature is Prakriti, is feminine by nature. And Krishna is Purusha by nature. So, Kalindi knew all these things. She was determined that only Krishna, otherwise no one else. And she was ready to perform austerities for that. She said, my father has made a house for me in this river water and I will stay there as long as I know how to please Krishna and accept him as my husband. So one should be determined, one should be very firm that I will attain Krishna in this very lifetime. Without this kind of determination, we will not be able to really advance fast, because Krishna advancement takes endeavor, takes effort. It's like going out of gravitational pull. If one has to go out, one needs a certain velocity. Cars cannot get out of the gravitational pull. They are riding in the surface. You have to have a rocket, and the rocket also cannot just go in the upward direction. It has to go upward direction at a speed which is, capable of penetrating the gravitational pull. So same way, those people who are living in this world without any purpose, they will keep on rotating in the cycle of birth and death. But even as transcendentalists, when we are trying to, go beyond this world, unless you have a certain degree of intensity, it will not happen automatically. You need a certain degree of intensity of cultivating affection for Krishna, attraction for Krishna, service attitude for pleasing Krishna and the devotees. So that intensity is required in our sadhana, in our sambandha, in our seva, to actually be able to make it. Kalindi had that. So Arjuna came back, and because she had submitted her plea through Arjuna, Krishna never rejected the request of a devotee. So Krishna accepted her and brought her back to the palace of Yudhishthira. And then after a few more months, Krishna departed back to Dwarka, because that's also his duty. And once he goes back to Dwarka, then the further marriages. There he went back and then he got married to Kalinga on an auspicious time, according to Muhurta. And then later the marriages with other four, princesses being described. So in the place called Ujjain, current day Ujjain, Avantipur, so there were two kings, two brothers, and they were associates of Duryodhana. So they were not willing to give their sister Mitra Vrinda, Mitra Vrinda in marriage to Krishna. Even though she was choosing Krishna in the Swayamvara, but she said, no, these are not the options. These options don't exist in the list. You have to choose someone else. So then Krishna kidnapped. They all fought, and then Krishna won over them, and Krishna kidnapped Mitra Vrinda and brought her. He got married to her. And then in Koshal days, current day Ayodhya, there was King Nagnajit. And when Krishna heard that he has a marriageable daughter named Satya, or she's called Nagnajiti also, daughter of Nagnajit, then Krishna came. Krishna came with a big army, and Nagnajit also welcomed him very well. There was a beautiful conversation between the two, where Krishna told that, because except he was received very well, Krishna offered obeisance, thinking in my future father-in-law. I to displease him. Already Lord Shiva displeased Daksha, and so much chaos happened. Let me respect my father-in-law. so Krishna respected him. And Nagnajit was so happy, and he said, my dear Lord, you are the Lord Narayan, you are the master goddess of fortune, and it's our great fortune that you have been here. So what can you do for you? And Krishna says, see, generally Kshatriyas don't ask anything. If they ask anything, their own reputation is like at stake, and they're not in that nature. But still, still I ask that you get your daughter married to me, because you have received him well. So Krishna wanted to test him. And Nagnajit said, yes, my dear Lord, you are the only suitable husband for my daughter. And this is what I feel from the heart. Still, because I've taken a vow that anyone who will get married to my daughter has to first subdue the 7 bulls. And the 7 bulls were like, they will smell the prince and they will go wild, they will go mad. Very powerful 7 bulls. And many princes have come, because those days, winning a match and all was not something. But getting married to a very respectable lady or some princesses, that was the sport at that time. So people go here, there, this Swayamvara, that Swayamvara. That was the kind of, grand occasions, grand ceremonies. And then there were wars, and they would fight with great, courage and heroic way. So things are quite different in those days. There were no like cricket match, football match, people going to the TV and just, breaking the TV screens, nothing like that. They had to be participating in that. So many princes have come, but the bulls were so powerful, they were broken the legs and hands of all the princes. So I think he said, you should pass the test. And Krishna said, okay. Krishna expanded into 7. He didn't want to, delay the thing. And he also assured Satya that although I have many wives, but I will still be able to give you exclusive attention. I can expand myself. Not as everyone can do that. And within moments, Krishna is anyway Gwalabal, so he had dealt with bulls earlier also. So within moments, he pulled, put a rope through the nose of each of the 7 bulls, and then put all the 7 ropes in his hand and pulled all the 7 bulls, as if a child pulls the bulls made of wood or mud. He didn't even consider them like big, powerful bulls. For Krishna is Balam Balvatam Jaham. All strength comes from Krishna. So what is the surprise? So like that, then, immediately Satya, Nagnajiti, and all the family members were very happy. Satya got married, and his father gave charity, which is worth reading. Amazing it is. He gave 3,000 maid servants who were well dressed and well decorated with all golden ornaments from toe till head. And then he gave, 9,000 elephants. Elephant was the costliest. And then he gave 100 times as many chariots as there were, elephants. So that means 9 lakh chariots he gave. And then 9 lakh, 100 times of that he gave horses. So there were 9 million horses. 9 million, 9 lakh, 900 lakh, 9 million. 90 million horses. And then he gave 100 times, men servant. 3 lakh were maid servant. They were men servant. So you can imagine what was the count and what was the marriage and how much space it would have taken. But these are the grand pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God. We should not have doubt about that. How is it possible? Everything is possible. The Supreme Lord can create millions of leaves in a tree, which no scientist can create in one leaf. So what is the problem for him to have such pastimes? So all this opulence and dowry he took and he was returning. And then all these kings who were earlier frustrated, they made a union and they opposed Krishna. Arjuna thought, okay, let me do some service. Aaj mere yaar ki shaadi hai. Like in India, they sing that, famous song. So Arjuna was also excited and he said, okay, I'll deal with that. At least I'll do that for service. So then he took his bow and arrow and he did not kill anyone because marriage was the occasion. He didn't want to necessarily kill, but he broke their hands and legs and they're all there. And then Krishna brought back Satya. And then, this was Bhadra in the one of Krishna's another aunt, Shrutikirti, and her daughter. So then she was offered just as because she wanted to marry Krishna, she was offered to Krishna and she got married to Bhadra. And then last one is Lakshmana. And then there was a swamvar for Lakshmana. And Krishna went there. And that swamvar, she will describe later, it was tougher than the swamvar of Draupadi. And actually, Arjuna has also come there. Arjuna failed in that swamvar. And Krishna won the hand of Lakshmana. Because in Draupadi's swamvar, there was oil below and there was a fish moving on top. And you have to shoot the fish. And by just looking at the oil below. That was the thing. But here, the whole fish was covered and there was only one hole. So you have to shoot an arrow in the eye of the toy fish when the fish is coming in the range of that hole. And you have to sit down, see it down. You have to see the down and see the hole. And when in that hole the fish comes, then you have to shoot an arrow at it. So Arjuna could not do that. Krishna did. And that's how he got married to Lakshmana. This is how he got married to the 5 princesses. And then he got married to them in Dwarka. It was a grand festival. And as we know that he made a separate palace for each one, he expanded himself into as many Krishnas as he gave to getting married. And then Sukadeva Goswami ends the chapter by saying, not only get married to these 5 queens, which is described here, but he got married to thousands of other queens. So then the next chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asked the question, what is the thousands of other queens? How did they come? So these are 5. And the first one is Rukmini. You know how in Kondinapur, Krishna kidnapped Rukmini. And then there is Satyabhama, daughter of Satyajit. In the case of Shamantaka Jwali, how he got married to Satyabhama, and Jambavati also, daughter of Jambavan. Jambavan has taken that jewel and Krishna fought with him, so he offered his daughter, Jambavan. So these are the 8 principal queens for Krishna, among which Rukmini and Satyabhama are the most prominent ones. And there are 6 more. And then there are 16,100 more queens who were kidnapped by Bhaumasur, which will be described in the later chapters. So this is how this chapter flows, and the most vital parts, as we discussed in the beginning, how Pandavas are receiving Krishna with all the grace and feeling as if their life has come back. How Krishna is meeting the Pandavas, how Maharani Kunti is praying in spite of going through so much trouble. Not even one blame, not even a thought of blaming Krishna, but only gratitude for Krishna. Very rare. And this is some kind of test in bhakti, that how much we can remain grateful to Krishna in the reversing situations. In good going situations, thank you, Krishna, it's easy to say. But to say thank you when life is not going the way we would like it to go, very tough. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj prays, and then Krishna goes with Arjuna to hunt, and then he gets Kalindi, and then he gets Mithravrinda, and then he gets Satya, and he gets Bhadra, then he gets Lakshmana. So like that, we discussed about Nagnajit also, how King Nagnajit and Krishna were talking. Each of these queens actually, they consider themselves as maid-servant of Krishna. They don't think, we are the better half of Krishna. They think they will reveal their mind, in their discussion with Draupadi. It will come later in one of the chapters. So they are in the mood of devotee. They are not in the mood of like dominating wives or something like that. So we should not misunderstand. Although Krishna may have different relationships with different devotees, different rasas, those rasas are not exactly like material rasas. All the relationships are imbibed with pure devotional service attitude. They only consider themselves as servants of Krishna, not in any other kind. The mood is very, different. But by hearing that, we come to know of the glories of Krishna, as we discussed in the beginning. We get excited and we understand this is Krishna, this is our glorious Lord. This is the wonderful activity that he does, and our attraction for Krishna grows, and thus we make advancement in our Krishna consciousness. So this is all the quickest summary I could give of this chapter. And next time, we will continue. If there's any question or comment, we have a couple of minutes for that. And then we'll close 10 o'clock. Indian time. The time I think it will be like 7:30 or 8 there. I don't know. So any question, comment is there, then floor is open. You can please unmute yourself and comment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Danda Pranams. Please accept our
Very happy to see you. Very well.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. It was happy to see you after a long time. We had your interesting Bhagavad Gita class, 18-day session. After that, we are able to see you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for your nice class, Prabhu.
Happy lockdown brought me to Kuwait. I came so close to all of you. Thank to Gopal Prabhu and our Sunny Prabhu. Forgetting
Yes.
his name.
Yes, sir.
They are the instruments to make a relationship between Kanhaiya Des and Vrindavan temple.
Our Asimananda Prabhu is there. I think he has met you.
Yeah,
already.
today he started back. Now he's in transit. Actually, tomorrow morning.
Yes. Tomorrow he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. He was here for a couple of days. I could meet him.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, just I have one quick question, Prabhu. Like when we said Lakshmana, they say daughter of king of Madra. That Madra means it's representing the Madras or Lakshmana.
It's
The
Madras.
the South Indies, which we have say Tamil Nadu, like Chennai. Is the Madras the same referring to that?
Same Madras. Yeah. Same Madras.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
If you are from Chennai, then you can be happy. Krishna had wives from all different parts of India.
That's right.
From Maharashtra, Kondinapur is still in Maharashtra. Amravati is there.
Oh, okay.
So here Maharashtrian Rukmini and Satyabhama from Dwarka, and then Ujjain, Mithravrinda, and then Nagni Jiti, she was from Ayodhya. So Krishna ensured that all the people in all the states of India can feel related to Krishna.
Equal opportunities.
Yes, equal opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Devotees have any questions? Please, you can ask. Prabhu is here, so we can ask. And if you have any doubts in today's discussion, please you can ask me. Hare Krishna. So I think if there are no other doubts, we can thank Prabhu for giving his precious valuable time for us, inspiring us in Krishna consciousness and enlightening us. And we would like to hear more from you, Prabhu. Whenever time permits, please give your association. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Sri Chaitanya was giving a regular association.
Sure, Prabhu. We are releasing that.
Yes.
So as they say, variety is the mother of enjoyment. We would like to hear from all the devotees. Definitely, we are releasing Prabhu. Everybody is eager for his class. Prabhu takes very nice classes, very interactive way. And we would like to hear from all devotees from Pune, definitely from you, Prabhu. So future also, we'd like to take your association. Thank you.
From them, so we are getting such rich association. Sometimes it's my good fortune to be with all of you. Just inspired by seeing all of you practicing so sincerely, seriously, and intensely in this far-off place, far from Mayapur, far from Vrindavan, but still keeping the intensity in the association with each other. It's a very inspiring sign. Thank you.
Thank you. We seek all your blessings, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So we'd like to thank His Grace Revatipati Prabhu for his time for us. And let us thank him by express our gratitude by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Vancha kalpataribhascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Vaishnav ki jai, Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Revatipati Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Devotees, thank you all for joining today's session. And we'll be having our other sessions, which will be updated in our WhatsApp group. So with all your permission, we'll be ending. Any other announcement we need to make? Sudarshan Vasudev Prabhu is there. Anantama Gopal Prabhu, Sudarshan Vasudev Prabhu, any announcement? Amlarjit Prabhu. If there is no other announcements, we can wind up this session. Hare Krishna.